Recording in progress.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Contra Costa Student Wellness Series. We are so excited to welcome you to our last session, Mental Wellness and Wellness Prevention and Support. Next slide.
Before we get started, we'd just like you guys to know a few things. This presentation is being recorded. However, all the attendees are muted and not on video, so you don't need to worry about making an appearance. Also, the webinar recording will be made available to everyone, and you will have access to the information shared today. We ask that you please utilize the Q&A box to submit questions. We will monitor the Q&A box throughout the presentation, and we will have Q&A time following the presentation. We will utilize the polling feature during this presentation, which will allow us to gather anonymous feedback from all of you. Lastly, we'll provide key resource links via the chat box. If you are not able to access them through the chat box, no worries. They will also be sent out to all the attendees via email following the presentation. Next slide.
Hi, my name is Cece. I'm a 10th grader in Contra Costa County, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm Mina, and I'm an 8th grader at Contra Costa County, and my pronouns are she, her. Next slide. Courage was established through the partnership between the Contra Costa County Office of Education and the Center for Human Development. Courage is a youth advocacy coalition comprised of 30 students, 8th graders through 12th graders from all over Contra Costa County. Courage is a youth-centered and directed leadership and advocacy group working to address issues around prevention of youth tobacco, marijuana, prescription drug, and alcohol use and abuse. We use our voices to educate and present to local decision makers, youth conferences, parent events, and we support an annual countrywide PSA contest and film festival. Courage accepts new students' application each spring for the following school year. We'll be accepting applications soon, so please keep an eye out for that if you would like to join. Next slide.
We want to thank our host and sponsor, the Contra Costa County Office of Education, CCCOE. CCCOE is an essential part of Contra Costa's outstanding public school system. Together with their 18 school districts and numerous community partners, they prepare students in Contra Costa County to learn, lead, and achieve. Providing support services to schools and school districts, CCCOE has a long history of providing direct services to some of our county's most vulnerable students. CCCOE also serves as an advocate for education and youth in our county, helps to increase public awareness of educational issues, and leads the way with bold countywide initiatives.
All right. We have the honor of having a few amazing students from Antioch High. Please welcome Aaron, Jalen, and Natalie presenting their Peer Advocates program, and Scott from the Contra Costa Crisis Center.
Hi, I'm Nico, a Peers 3 advocate, and I've been in this class since I was a sophomore. And some of the benefits I have gained from this class is being able to think better in my own situations and trying to solve my own problems better through helping others since I've, been in this class, and having to talk to people and not being able to give advice, but trying to help them think better about their own situations, without trying to just get straight at the problem, So that has helped, and that's been a big benefit in my own life, and I use it a lot. And also, just being able to be more social with other people and getting to understand that a lot of the other students are just like me and we go through a lot of the same stuff together. So yeah, it's been a great learning experience to be in this class with all these other peers, and it's been a great time.
Hi, my name is Sione. I am part of the Antioch High School Peers program, and this is my second year of Peers. How to apply for Peers? You could talk to your counselor, or you could talk to Mrs. Schweitzer herself. After that, if selected, you are then interviewed by one of us peers, and from there, you will find out if you are part of this amazing program.
Hi, my name is Erin. I've been in Pierce for 3 years. In my words, describing a conflict mediation is two people having a problem or just a situation, really anything, and they need to talk it out in a controlled environment with our designated rules, and we all together come up with a solution that could benefit either both or one, but like we try to make it good for everyone in this situation, to stop the problem or find the solution. The solution everyone has to go along with, and you sign your contract and you're good to go. So, how Pierce has affected my life is the relationships I've built in the class. Going around the school, like, I know I could count on those people, like, if I'm going through it or if I'm having, like, a situation or anything. And if I'm just not having a good day, I could go to the Pierce classroom and chill because of, like, I feel so safe in the environment.
Hi, I'm Madison, and I've been in Pierce for 3 years, and I've loved being in it ever since I first joined my sophomore year. So in the Pierce program, we offer one-on-ones with students who feel that they need to just talk to someone about anything personal or schoolwork, anything that they need to talk to someone about, they could come to us, and we are willing to help in any type of way we can. We cannot give advice, but we will guide you to the right solution. Pierce has honestly benefited me in several ways. Like, I could go on and on about it, but I would say the main big thing is it has helped me become more of an open person, I would say, just because of the talks we do in class. You meet new people, you are constantly working with different people your first year, and I was a really shy girl, and I would say like that doing that has really knocked out that fear of mine, which I'm very grateful of, because now I'm more open and I could talk to anyone and not be scared to pretty much do anything that I used to be scared of doing before.
My name's Joshua and I'm in Pierce too. Peer advocates is more than just help people out on campus, it's more of a family within itself. We help each other and we help anybody else who's in need of help. And the atmosphere of the classroom is just unmatched. You can't find this atmosphere anywhere else on campus or in other schools that I'd like to think. We're more of a family than anything. And that's what really Pierce is. Pierce is a family.
Natalie, do you want to go ahead and read the question?
Yes, the question on this slide asks, what's mental health and why is it important? I would explain mental health as looking out for your emotional. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I did not know my video wasn't on. Let me restart. The question on this slide asks, what's mental health and why is it important? I would explain mental health as looking out for your emotional, psychological well-being. It's important to take that time out to take care of yourself so you can be the best you can be and do everything to the best of your ability and feel that you did everything the best you could throughout your day, all your little activities. Scott, what do you think?
Well, thanks for the question and thanks for the invitation. And here you can see on the slide, just a reminder that I'm with the Contra Costa Crisis Center. Let's take a look at the next slide. I wanted to start off as we talk about all of these mental health questions and concerns and issues. It might remind us about anything going on in our own lives or anything going on in the lives of family members or friends or people that we know at school or somewhere else. And it may be difficult and it may be painful maybe even right now while we're together talking about this, or for the people who might watch this on some other occasion, please know that your health and your well-being are most important. And if you need to take a break or a breather and step away, that I want to encourage you to do that. And I also want you to know about resources that can be available, even right now while I'm speaking, or anytime, 24 hours a day, while you are possibly watching this video on another occasion. So let's look at the next slide. So here is what's available in Contra Costa, and then down at the bottom, I have the national number. But we have a crisis and suicide line, and I think I'll say just a little bit more about this in a moment on another slide. But all you have to do, if you're in Contra Costa, is dial 211. Or we have an 800 number, 800-833-2900. We're here 24 hours a day. Or you can text the word HOPE to the digits of 20121. We have a grief hotline. All you have to do is call 211, sort of the same thing. And then the national line. I just want to comment about the national line. Maybe some of you already know about it. It's advertised a lot, since it's at the national level. And it's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And I'm going to tell us in a moment that you don't have to have thoughts of suicide in order to call that line or to call us. It's about mental health. It's about support. It's about someone in crisis, just like the peer counselors we're talking about. It's good to have someone to talk to. And maybe those peer counselors aren't at your school, or they're not available, or it's the middle of the night. And so you can give us a call. So that national line is there, 1-800-273-TALK. The national line actually routes calls to nearby centers. So even when people call the national line, possibly it may come to us right here in Contra Costa. Next slide. So here's just a card that lists that out there. Call 211, our 800 number, text the word HOPE, and then our main areas of service, crisis and suicide, info and referral. We'll hear more about that at the very end of this presentation, about all sorts of resources that are in the database. And then also grief support after someone has died, and that may be very important. And it's hard for anyone of any age. And we're available 24 hours a day, free, confidential. Next slide. Actually, here we have one of our polling questions. So let's take a look at this. And if you all could fill out and answer this, which crisis line or which service can help you or a friend? And it says there multiple choice. So I guess you can click as many as you like. So I hope that people are filling that out right now. I actually can't see if the results are coming in. I can see the poll on my screen. So maybe we'll get to find out the answer. Oh, let's see here. Oh, everyone got all of the above. Let's see here. We got a yes. Well, actually, only one person responded. Oh, I guess most of us aren't able to. Well, there it is. Well, you all did very well. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So here, this is very valuable to find out. It's like, what happens? What are the kinds of calls that we take on a crisis line, whether our own local crisis line or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline? Certainly, the calls can have, and we can talk about, suicide. If the individual calling has thoughts of suicide, absolutely give us a call and we can talk about that. But also, if your friend or a family member or someone you know has thoughts of suicide, or maybe you think the person possibly might have thoughts of suicide, you're not sure, and you wonder how to be helpful, give us a call and we'll help you. And of course, you can always give the number to your friend and they could call. Now, then another category is just plain any old crisis or grieving. It doesn't have to be related to suicide. So something goes on in your life and you want to talk about something, you don't know who to talk to, or maybe you don't want to talk to your friends about it yet, or ever, or your family, or you don't feel comfortable, or whatever. So give us a call. Or maybe you're concerned about someone else, and that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today. And so you can give us a call and we can help you out. And then there are some folks who call maybe here and there and ongoing, and that's fine. We're here to provide support. Next slide. And so now we have another polling question, and that question is, what support does the crisis line or the crisis service, the texting, whatever, provide to the caller or the texter? Multiple choice. So let's see those answers here. What support does a crisis line provide to the one who calls in or to the person who texts in? Choose any that you think apply. And we're getting the results now. Look at that. You are absolutely correct. All of you all who were able to answer. And so we do provide support to someone with thoughts of suicide, provide coaching, provide support to anyone in crisis, even without thoughts of suicide, provide help and resources to someone concerned about someone else's mental health. All right, let's go to the next slide. So all of that was sort of introductory, make sure you know what's going on and make sure we're safe and we can stay safe and know where to call. The question was, what is mental health? So here are a couple definitions. We already heard one of the definitions, very nice, about just being able to do what you can do. That mental health, the health of a person's mind, their thoughts, feelings, and actions. Another definition, a state of well-being in which the individual realizes their own abilities. All this begins to sound pretty fancy here, but can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to the community. So that's when everything's going okay. Next slide. Now, we're going to watch a video here from a website and a program that's called Active Minds. And Active Minds works a lot with actually college students, but they are willing to work also with high school students related to mental health issues and raising awareness and providing support. And they have a video here with a lot of, I think, high school, maybe some college-age people during this time of pandemic and talking about how it has affected them. So it has affected their mental health. And as you can see there, and I hope we all know, that it's okay to not be okay. So this video is somewhere around 3.5 minutes or so.
These are humans, more specifically young humans. We believe their story matters. So during this global pandemic, we wanted to stop in and ask, what has this been like for you?
It's really been sucky.
It's definitely sucked.
I can't complain.
Yeah, of course it sucks. Yeah, that really sucked.
A lot. I've missed out on my whole tennis season, which I can't, that's not too bad.
I used to, have a bunch of people come over and we would drink hot chocolate and watch Netflix together.
This year we had jazz band for the first time in a long time. And so I had to miss on performing that for our concert.
I miss hugging my friends.
Now it's just the work and not any of the fun stuff.
I've lost my senior year. I lost prom.
Prom? That's something I missed.
I'm not working my serving job anymore.
I've had my good days and my bad days. Let's just say that.
School has been weird.
Finneytown High School has now become Finneytown Homeschool.
I strongly dislike learning from home.
I'll try to start schoolwork Monday through Fridays, check all the Google Classrooms and the Schoologies and the 13 different platforms that we use and figure out if there's a meeting.
It's led to a lot of stress and anxiety.
I feel like I have a loss of hope almost.
That's definitely been a lot of stressful thoughts about it.
I'm not learning anything. No. Well, I never knew how good I was at procrastinating until now.
It feels like time doesn't exist.
Days are kind of all slobbed together.
I definitely have felt guilty for feeling any sort of sadness about what I've missed out on.
This is weird and it's okay to feel like this and you have a reason to and you're allowed to.
All of our feelings are valid. All of our emotions and stuff, they're real. And
we're allowed to have them.
So being told that it's okay to have a problem and to feel that way can be the first way to start solving it.
Honestly, it's just sad.
It's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be hurt, and it's okay to feel the way you do because your feelings are extremely valid. This has never happened before in our generation or in our lifetime. To feel like your feelings don't matter is completely wrong.
I talk to my mom a lot.
Journaling helps a lot, like writing everything down.
FaceTime calls and friends and family, and I'm making sure I water my plants.
I've choreographed dances. I would film right in front of my garage actually and like post on Instagram, try to like spread positivity during this crazy time.
I know that first meeting and those first hugs are gonna be really awesome and needed.
You are human, which is good news because it means you have permission to be human. And as a human, it's okay to not be okay.
It is okay to not be okay. And it's also okay to reach out when we're not okay. So actually this poll 3, I think that we're a little out of order here. Although we can answer it a little ahead of time. We'll take a guess here. Just absolutely give it a good shot and a good guess, and we'll cover the answer in a few moments or so. This asks now, what percentage of youth, 13 to 18 years old, have a diagnosable mental health disorder or condition? And the options are, most of these I just made up. One of them is the answer. 5%, 12%, 17%, 22%, 27%. Did you notice I was going up by fives? Just most of the time. That just make a guess, and then we'll come back to the answer a little bit later in the next round. What percentage of youth have a diagnosable mental health disorder or condition? Well, this is very interesting. So some of us thought 17% and some of us thought 27%. Well, we'll see the answer coming up in a few minutes. In the meantime, we're going to move on to our next question from one of our panelists.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you see me too?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, sorry. My thing is like, I just kicked me out and then I had to go back in. But okay, so hi, I'm Erin. My question is, what is important for young people to know about mental health? And in my perspective, personally, one good thing to know about mental health is that not everyone's is the same. You are your own individual person, so you are gonna have your own feelings about your mental health and your own opinions on it. Everyone's is different. You can't really like, some people do compare themselves, but like that's not really like an accurate thing to compare because everyone is different.
Let's hear from Scott.
Well,
we'd like to...
okay, go ahead, Erin.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Scott, what are your opinions on it?
Well, there's so much. This is a very big question. There's a lot that is good for young people or anyone of any age to know. But I thought I'd start off with another video. I like these folks from Active Minds, and we're going to see here that they're going to guide us in, and they're anticipating some of the other questions coming up. But what to watch out for, and that's important for young people, and some tips about how to respond to and be supportive to people and each of the individuals with whatever their concerns might be. So this video is about 4.5 minutes, if I recall.
Hey, has this ever happened to you? Maybe a friend, sibling, teammate, loved one says something like, "I've been having a hard time lately. I've been feeling really anxious. I'm overwhelmed." If it sounds like more than a bad day, it probably is. So, what could you do? Consider this an opening to start a conversation with your friend. Talk and listen using VAR. Validate, appreciate, refer. VAR. An easy way to let someone know it's okay to not be okay, and you are not alone. Here's how it works. V. Validate their feelings. Let them know what they're feeling is okay, and that you believe them. Validate sounds like, "I'm really sorry you're struggling right now. I believe you. I hear you. That must be really hard to deal with." Even though you might not totally relate, your friend's feelings are always valid. A. Appreciate their courage. Speaking up can be hard. It's not easy to admit you're struggling. Appreciate sounds like, "Thank you so much for telling me. That took a lot of courage. I don't know what to say. I'm just so glad you told me. I love you and I'm here for you if you want to talk or need anything." Show that you're there to support them. Let them know you care and they're not alone. R. Refer them to skills and support. Sometimes, what a person needs is someone to listen, though sometimes they need more. Refer sounds like, "Want to take a break from studying and go watch a movie? I've been using this meditation app. It's really helped me slow down my thoughts. Can we make plans to go on a run together tomorrow? I think it might be helpful to talk to someone. Can I go with you?" Show that help is available and that you're with them. Could it be that easy? Yes. VAR conversations can start in any order and can take any form. Phone, in person, text message, even FaceTime. There's no exact right thing to say. In fact, most of us are afraid of saying the wrong thing, so we end up saying nothing at all. Always assume you're the only one who's reaching out, and know that it's not the exact words that count as much as your presence. Listening, connecting, accepting. You can make a generous and empathetic choice to be there, and could be making all the difference in the world for your friend. Are there things not to do or say? Yeah. Be aware that these aren't really helpful. Saying, "It's fine, you'll get over it." Offering tips to fix them. Saying, "Don't be so emotional, you're so dramatic." Or, "Man up." Minimizing or comparing how your friend feels by looking for something positive in their situation, such as, "Well, at least..." Assuming everyone experiences the same condition in the same way. Just be yourself. One therapist compares it to being a dolphin swimming alongside. Guide your friend with a helpful nudge and be on the journey with them. Remember, you don't have to be an expert to help. You don't even have to understand what your friend is going through. Just showing you care and being there in a moment of need is what it's all about.
Again, I'd just like to give a shout out to Active Minds and to recommend that you might check out their website or YouTubes and the YouTubes that are a part of Active Minds, and that was available also on YouTube. And then you notice there at the end that they point out to reach out to the national line. They weren't promoting the Contra Costa Crisis Center, but the national line, either one. And then also there was the national text line, if you noticed that. We also have local texting. Text the word HOPE to 20121. And then it said there, the narrator was saying, you don't have to be an expert. It's a matter of being there and being supportive and helpful. So there's so much that that video presents that is helpful for a young person to know about mental health. So let's take a look at maybe 3 levels, although there are many perhaps gradations, but mentally healthy, or somewhere in that ballpark, mental health challenges, and mental health disorders or conditions. Next slide. So mentally healthy. Here, a mentally healthy young person might be considered so. This person would feel in control, more or less, of their emotions, would have acceptable cognitive functioning, meaning how the brain works, that more or less okay, will have positive interactions with people, generally, will be able to perform satisfactorily in school. It's not about getting straight A's necessarily, but satisfactorily for the person, and will enjoy family and friends and acquaintances. Well, enjoy more or less, most of the time, some of the time, whatever, but sort of get along and find it valuable. That's all mentally healthy, sort of everything okay. Of course, there are moments when things aren't okay. So let's take a look at the next slide. Mental health challenges. So it's not quite, and often this is the case. It's not a disorder. It's not a diagnosis. But so a mental health challenge is just recognizing that there are mental illnesses and symptoms, but they might not warrant the diagnosis of a disorder. In other words, feeling down, depressed, anxious. Everyone's anxious. Everyone's down some degree or another, some moment or another, and may not necessarily have enough symptoms to merit a diagnosis. But so let's take a look at the next definition. A disorder, a diagnosis. So a serious change. What would, there are many different diagnoses. We're going to look at some of them. But when there is a serious change in the way that the young person typically learns or behaves or handles their emotions, and those changes cause distress and problems getting through the day, notably and in a sustained way. Next slide. So we already looked at this question, so why don't we go on to the next slide? So here we're going to get the answer. All right, so there are 2 slides here because we're going to get the full list, but let me focus here. Percentage of youth 13 to 18 years old with a diagnosable mental health disorder or condition. And the grand answer is 22%. Funny enough, people said 17, people said 27, and they hopped right over that 22. But if it's 22, that means that 1 in 5, at some point or another, 1 in 5 young people would merit a diagnosis of a notable mental health condition. That's a pretty good sized number. Now, it's not a horrible deal. I mean, obviously, everyone would prefer to be healthy, but whenever there is a challenge or something that meets the level of a diagnosis, then the goal would be to get some assistance. And we're going to look at different levels and different kinds of assistance that'll be coming up. But let's just take a look at breaking this down in different kinds of diagnoses. So 10% of young people will have at some point or another, even as a young person underage, some sort of substance use disorder, maybe even, obviously alcohol, drugs, but let's not forget using tobacco. And of course, we're here and partly funded by TUPE. So we want to help people, obviously, to stay healthy, including use of tobacco, which ideally would be none, or help people to reduce that. Anyway, let's go on here. 9% major depression. 9%. That's a notable number. 8% anxiety. I'm surprised it's that low, actually. All right, let's go to the next slide. 6.5%, just thought I'd get that 0.5% in there. Oppositional defiant disorder. Well, I'll bet that every person on the face of the earth has been oppositional at some point or another to someone, but at any rate, where it merits a diagnosis. 2.7% eating disorder, 2.6% bipolar disorder. Bipolar can have some significant impairment in someone's life. 2% conduct disorder, but let me go back to that bipolar, or maybe any of this. One can receive treatment, one can learn ways of managing any of these conditions, or even reach a cure or remission. Then 2% conduct disorder, 1.5% post-traumatic stress when there has been some difficult trauma. All right, next slide. And we're ready for the next question from one of our youth panelists.
Jalen, are you ready to answer the question?
Yes, I can. I finally got back on.
Great, go for it.
Wait, am I doing my question or?
Yes, I believe this is your question.
Okay. Hello?
Uh-huh.
Jalen, I think you were disconnected for that one. Why don't you try it one more time? Because now we can see and hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the question was, what can young people be aware of when assessing their own mental health? And I'll just go off like my personal experience. It's like trying to figure out where your problems came from and get to the bottom of it, because you know, when you're going through things with your mental health, which I have, like I was going through like anger issues and things like that, and other issues through my life that have
And unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties. As we know, this happens. We lost Jalen. With that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Scott.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate anytime that all this technology, you know, the challenges of Zoom, I don't mean just Zoom, but the internet and the pandemic and all of these challenges. And that does affect our stress levels at times. And here we are talking about mental health and getting to practice the challenging moment. But the question of what can young people be aware of when assessing their own mental health? And I wanted to present another organization. They're another great organization at the national level, and then local branches as well. So NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. And so they have a national website, NAMI.org. And then right here in Contra Costa, we have one of the chapters, and that's NAMI Contra Costa. And they have their own website, NAMIContraCosta.org. They have great services. And then let's look at NAMI at the national level and their website. They've got a lot of information for everyone of every age, including young people. So they have here Getting the Right Start, the Student Guide to Mental Health. And they list several steps here, and we're going to just start in on one or two of them. And you can see them there. Know the 10 common warning signs that maybe there's some difficulty. So we're going to watch a video about that in just a moment. But I wanted to look at the next steps that they say. And if you're worried, if you're concerned about yourself, tell someone, talk to someone about that. And we're going to look at just some of the kinds of people that we might turn to and what to say, what to do. And keep in mind that there may be a delay for those that are looking for significant medical attention from a psychiatrist, that there may be a little bit of a delay. So what do you do in the meantime? Stay connected to other folks. But let's take a look at the next slide, and I think we're going to get into the 10 common warning signs. So we're going to watch now a video. It's about almost 2 minutes about these 10 common warning signs.
Mental health conditions are more common than you may think. 1 in 5 youth or young adults lives with a mental health condition. Do you know the warning signs? Like feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. Severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. Or seriously trying to harm or kill oneself, or making plans to do so. Not eating, throwing up, or using laxatives to lose weight. Significant weight loss or weight gain. Severe, out-of-control risk-taking behavior that can cause harm to self or others. Repeated use of drugs or alcohol. Drastic changes in behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. Or extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still. If you see these signs in yourself or a friend, tell a trusted adult. The first step to getting help is to say it out loud. Mental health can.
Again, that's a video from NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and that video is also available, whether through their website, NAMI.org, and also then it would take you to YouTube. So you could go to YouTube and just type in NAMI and see many things come up. But here again are listed the 10 common warning signs of maybe that there's a difficulty. I want to say some of this is, again, pretty heavy. And it may be, it's like, ooh, gee, I wonder, and we might wonder about ourselves. So let's remember the next step. If we are concerned, then it's good to talk to someone. And we'll see in a couple slides some different groups, kinds of people that we might want to reach out to. But let's look at these again. Number 1, feeling very sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks, if it's sustained. And I heard somewhere recently that truth is actually many people persevere through challenges far longer than the 2 weeks, and then finally say, gee, something may be up and I'm going to go talk to someone about this. But we're not talking about just for a day or 2 or 3. We're talking about something more. Number 2, certainly, seriously trying to harm oneself or to kill oneself or making plans to do so. Please reach out. Severe out-of-control risk-taking behavior. Probably everyone does something risky to one degree or another, so we want to take a look at what's going on. But severe out-of-control risk-taking. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. Like, you know, we can be afraid, and we know why. And sometimes we're afraid and we don't know why. And it doesn't seem like there's something out there, and yet we are. So that's worth looking at. Not eating, throwing up, using laxatives to try to lose weight, significant weight loss or significant weight gain. Next slide. Seeing, hearing, or believing things that aren't there, that no one else can see or hear. Repeated use of drugs or alcohol, actually. That was supposed to be drugs or alcohol. Drastic changes in mood, behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. We're talking about drastic changes and sustained, or something where it's almost a roller coaster maybe. Extreme difficulty in concentrating, again, more than usual, not just, for example, during a webinar on Zoom, may be hard to concentrate. Staying still, it's also hard to stay still when you're watching your computer all day on Zoom. And not against Zoom, We could throw in any other of these. We're just talking about an online platform. Zoom has been very wonderful. Intent number 10. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. We're talking about that get in the way. So what do? Let's look at the next slide. So who can we reach out to? Think about someone, a group or people that may be able to be helpful. A family member, a close friend, a teacher, professor, school counselor, other counselor, coach, youth group leader, faith leader, doctor. I think we have the next slide. Oh, well, then later on, we're going to find out, of course, you can call the crisis line. But which of the following? We have another poll here, and this is, which of the following helps someone to manage a mental health condition? And multiple choice, choose any that you want. Who or what can possibly be helpful to you? If there's a mental health condition, a mental health challenge, a mental health question, wondering, confusion. Well, there it is. All of the above, and probably some more. So it's nice to know that there are potentially lots of different people out there and groups of people or people involved in different activities who can be helpful to us. Let's go to the next slide. And we're ready for the next question.
Alrighty. How can a young person get help if they are experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis? And so let's just say high schools, they offer some help. Like you could go to counselors, like administration. At my school and specifically, I go to Antioch High School. We have Peers Advocates, so that's the program that me, Jalen, and Natalie are a part of. And we're here to talk, like literally about anything. And we're kids, like we're probably around the same age as like the high school like students and everything. And like a lot of us have been through like some sort of mental health issue, like whether like literally like we're so different in that class, like so like basically anything you could think of, like one of us has probably been through. And if you are not at school or anything, you could go through we have the suicide hotline, and then all the things that we were announcing earlier, like the call and then text to hope and all that stuff. And those are 24 hours. So like those are more if you need it like ASAP and it's like right at night. But like if you're in school, like don't like be scared to reach out like to your counselor, peer, like etc. Scott, you're just
Thank you. Well, Aaron, you named so much. So let's just quickly hop on through this. Aaron, you certainly talked about the crisis line, 211, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And remember that you yourself or whoever does not have to have thoughts of suicide to call. You can call if you're concerned about yourself about anything or concerned about someone else. Next slide. I thought this was helpful of different kinds of categories of help. So the other one was, a crisis line. But if someone needs some assistance that's ongoing, crisis line is in the moment, then there are, maybe we could say, 3 levels. It's what's suggested here. Certainly medical treatment. So we're talking about the medical field, doctors, primary doctor, pediatrician, a psychiatrist. Then another category would be psychological treatment, counseling, talk therapy, general a counselor, a social worker, therapist, psychologist. It's all at that level. And maybe one would get a referral from a doctor or just go there, let's say, to a therapist. And then it's very helpful as well to think about additional sources of support that are non-medical, non-official therapy. But let's take a look. Next slide. So here it's suggested people, programs, and activities. So people, it's anyone who can be supportive to the young person, anyone who can be supportive to anyone. Programs, mentoring programs, peer support programs. Certainly we're hearing a lot about that with Antioch High School. And I think someone wrote in the chat there that it should be everywhere, and it should be. Peer mentors, here you all are. Activities can be helpful in people's lives. Now, they don't address the deepest issues if there is a condition, a mental health condition, but they can help. Sports, art, music, theater, yoga, running, meditation, religious activities, volunteering, working at a job can be therapeutic itself and helpful if one is able to do that. Sometimes there's a notable impairment that can make it challenging, but when it's possible, that's great. All right, next slide. You know, I love this. We have 2 slides here about protective factors in general. What helps an individual? What helps a community? What helps a society so that we can be ready to help and to protect against difficulties? Now, there will always be difficulties no matter what, but what helps? Effective clinical care for mental health, physical health, substance abuse. If that's available, believe it or not, some communities don't have that. Or the next one, easy access to a variety of interventions, meaning someone can get to it easily. You don't have to drive 100 miles, and it's available at workable times, or people can afford it. That's nice when it happens, and it's a loss when it doesn't happen. Now, here's one, ongoing relationships with service providers, with the medical care, mental health care, related support. In other words, if you already have the established relationship, like let's just say you already sort of know where that counseling center is at your school or somewhere else, you know where to go, and you can go there and you feel comfortable going there, that's great. So that when there is a challenge in a moment, you know where to go and you feel okay about doing it. Now, obviously, there are moments when you don't know where to go and you don't know whom to talk to, and got the crisis lines. Now you all know about that. Strong connections. What else helps? Strong connections to family and or community support. Now, well, we know that unfortunately sometimes some families at the family level are going through struggles. Maybe, for example, now during the time of pandemic, you know, maybe parents have lost a job or themselves are experiencing great stress. So sometimes, unfortunately, the family is not as helpful as maybe we would hope that they could be. Maybe other members of the family also need some help and support. So hopefully then we can turn to additional sources of support out in the community, you know, the counseling center there at school or any groups. All right, next slide. We'll go on with this list of protective factors and what helps. I love this one, support for help seeking. Now, what does that mean? I think the peer counselors here would know well, and maybe others. What that means is when someone says, gee, I'm having a hard time, and then we say to that person, well, gosh, you know, maybe you want to reach out. Maybe you want to talk to the counseling center, you know, where that's support for them seeking help, as opposed to, what, are you crazy? You don't seem crazy. That's not support for help seeking. And so what helps people being when the rest of us are supportive of them in seeking help. What else helps? Skills in problem solving, skills in conflict resolution, nonviolent handling of disputes so that we don't need to fight. We don't need to pull out the knife or the gun or the fists or the words. That's hard sometimes, but if we can learn how to do that, that's very helpful. High self-esteem. And then if we're talking about suicide, which we haven't really, but what helps with that? Restricted access to lethal means of suicide. Meaning, if you have thoughts of suicide and you got guns in the house, well, let's move those guns out. And let's get those knives away. And whatever it is that is potentially going to be used, we want to make the environment safe. And then what else helps? Cultural and religious beliefs that discourage suicide and support self-preservation. Now, I always like to say, and this can also be true, cultural and religious beliefs that support the help seeking and support people when they're struggling. And that's exactly the challenge. Whenever there's a high value, for example, the value of life or the value of work, those are good values. But then when people struggle, so they aspire to the goal, that's great, but maybe they're having a hard time meeting the goal, living up to the goal. And maybe people are hesitant to reach out to people within their local community because of that value, because they feel embarrassed or ashamed. So that's the challenge. So it's good to have the value and also good to have an openness to support anyone who is struggling living according to whatever that value might be. And that maybe people can turn to additional folks for support for values that, you know, are supportive of life. All right, next slide. Here's something that I don't know if y'all are familiar with already. This is in the context of suicide prevention, but I think it can apply in general. And that is safety planning, but let's take a look at this. It also can talk about mental health challenges, mental health moments, mental health difficulties. So warning signs, like if we can be aware of when are we not feeling right? Like if we're agitated, if we're anxious, if we're irritable, you know, then we know maybe something's going on. All these other people are getting on my nerves. And we're thinking, well, they're getting on my nerves, it's all them. Well, maybe we're a little less patient at the moment. So what's going on in us? And then what can we do? So number 2, internal coping strategies. Now it's fancy wording. What that means is, what can we do alone? Just think about and list out lots of different things. What can I do alone that helps me to feel better? Maybe just taking a walk, maybe going off to my bedroom alone, maybe reading, maybe listening to music, maybe going on YouTube and watching videos from Active Minds, whatever. And maybe something works one time, but not another. So then you try something else. But to think about what can I do alone that helps me to feel better. Next one, social contacts, interaction. Think about who can you reach out to just in a casual way, hang out, or just being in the presence of other people. For example, a lot of people miss being in school, and they don't interact with everyone in school, and you don't interact with everyone in school, but you're there and you're around lots of people, and that's a positive, well, usually. And you also get to learn when you go to school. So, but it's being around other people. It's not talking deep. We're not talking deep at this level, although maybe you can. Number 4, family members or friends that you can reach out to in a deeper way and talk about the greater struggles, whatever those might be. And obviously, sometimes you reach out and the other person isn't as helpful or supportive as we would have hoped. And hopefully we can move on and try to find someone else. Professionals or agencies, we're going to be talking about that, and certainly they're the crisis lines, and we can guide you to further things, and the counseling center can guide you further, and the counseling center is a place. Making the environment safe, I think we're sort of talking about that, related to safety in whatever way. And My Reason to Live, that's in the context of suicide. But let's look at the next slide. Coming up on this slide and the next one right here on this slide, we have an example of a couple apps that you can download free of charge. This one called Safety Plan, and you can download and then type in there what your answers to all of these steps. Next slide. The next slide is My 3. Same thing, just sort of different structure. And the My 3 are, you highlight a few people that you might reach out to in a moment of difficulty. Although, you can just go through your contact list, but here you can highlight them. All right, next slide. And I think we're ready for another question.
So the last question says, in what ways can a young person support other young people around mental health awareness and wellness? And we're going to hear from Aaron and Jalen first.
Okay. So Jalen has gotten kicked out of the meeting a couple times, and Sci-Fi is not working, so he's not here right now, but I will happily answer it. Sorry, I'm reading the question real quick. So ways young people can get support through other young people in mental health and awareness is through a great program called Peers Advocates, you know. But at school and stuff like that, there are some programs. There's like Reach, I believe, and then there should be a couple others. I'm sorry, I haven't like, this question is like, I didn't realize I had to answer this one. I'm super sorry. How about Natalie? You could go and then I will throw in my opinion after.
Yes, I agree. And there's Reach, there's Link Crew, I believe, in other schools too, where you can talk to the upperclassmen, and it's kind of like having a buddy like you used to in elementary school. So I think that's really nice. But what I was going to say was the peer advocate and someone who my friends feel comfortable coming to when they're struggling. I noticed that letting your guard down and allowing yourself to be vulnerable goes a really, really long way. You feel so much better in whatever situation you're in, knowing that you're not alone. And that's the best thing you can do for each other, just support each other. So let's hear from Scott.
Well, thank you. I know, Aaron, did you have something more to add? I know you said you wanted to let Natalie go. All right. Well, it's my turn.
So with that, like, yes, we have, I'm sorry if my dog's barking in the background, but yes, we have a Link Crew at our school as well. And I'm pretty sure other schools have it. Or they have some form of it. It's like student leadership, like upperclassmen, you get paired with freshmen. And so that, or like lowerclassmen, whatever, but like freshmen is like a good part for like when you first join. I very much apologize about my dog barking. But yeah, that is another really good way of like talking to people and getting to know people as well.
All right. Thank you. So let's see here, how to support other young people, how to be supportive to them, and how to be supportive to your friends or acquaintances. Again, I'm pulling some information from NAMI.org, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they've got a great downloadable, almost like a poster of this. So again, let's just look at their steps and we'll go over some of them, but know the 10 common warning signs of the possibility of difficulty. We already saw that. Start the conversation. Now that can be challenging, and that's why they have some prompts there. Gee, I've noticed something going on, and I just wonder how you are. We're going to see a little bit about it. We're going to see a video in a few moments from a different organization, and offer support, be supportive, be a friend, and get advice for yourself. All right, so now let's take a look at, I've cut and paste from this poster. So let's look at the next slide, and then we'll just, so here's some ideas. You can go to the website there, start the conversation. So, I've noticed you haven't been acting yourself lately. Is something going on? Let's look at the next slide. That's start the conversation, offer support. I really want to help. What can I do to help you right now? That's a wonderful supportive remark. Next slide. Be a friend. Now let's take a look at these. So your friend may feel alone. Check in regularly and include your friend in your plans. Invite your friend. Next one there. Learn more about mental health conditions. And you can do that at many different websites, including NAMI.org. Avoid saying things like, you'll get over it. Oh, toughen up. You're fine. Because then maybe the friend feels like you don't really understand what they're going through. Tell your friend that having a mental health condition does not change the way you feel about them. That's nice. Tell your friend it gets better, that help and support are out there, and that even if someone does have a diagnosis, possibly it's curable and certainly it's treatable. It can get treatment. All right, next slide. Now here I pulled from yet another website, Bring Change to Mind, and they had some ideas. They're trying to reduce stigma. For the sake of time, I'm going to just pass over this, but basically what they're saying is, I think one of the most important things is what some people call person-centered language, and that is that we don't talk about the mental health condition, like say that the person is, well, certainly we don't say crazy, but that the person has a diagnosis, or the person has these symptoms, or the person is managing this condition. And it's all about, it's first a person, a human being. And the human being is far more than whatever these challenges are. And so we want to be always respectful, and we always want to use respectful language so that anyone feels comfortable coming forward and talking about whatever the challenges might be. Let's pass on to the next slide. Let's move on to the next slide. And so certainly we hear around school and young people and other than young people sometimes say things that aren't very nice at all, you know, and say, so, I mean, it's so common, and yet we want to be respectful. Say, they're crazy, they're nuts, they're psycho, schizo. I couldn't even when I was typing it in, I couldn't even type in the whole word, the R-E. I don't know if you can figure out what word that is. It's not considered respectful these days. A lunatic, that's an old word. Anyway, and it may seem insignificant, but it's not. Next slide. So we have another question, and this is, which of the following statements seems most helpful to someone who has a mental health condition? So you only get to choose one. What strikes you as the most helpful for someone who has a mental health condition or mental health challenge? We'll let you read that over. You get one choice. Well, look at that. There it is. We have some very kind people. You know, one of these remarks, that you'll get over it, that can possibly be encouraging. The challenge is that maybe the person might not feel understood in this moment, and the pain or the questioning, the concern or anxiety that they have now. Yeah, so your mental condition does not change how I feel about you. That can be very nice, very supportive, very helpful. All right, are we coming to, let me see what's next, our next slide. Oh, here we are, get advice for yourself. This is very important. We as friends, young people, adults, whatever age person, let me read the sentences in small print there, but you may want to reach out to someone to talk to about how you're feeling and get advice on how to help your friend. So consider talking to a family member, trusted friend, school counselor, advisor, teacher, coach, faith leader, the crisis line, just that so that you can be helpful to your friend. And maybe it's even distressing to you when your friend is distressed. So then you need support also. And it's just good to be aware of that. And in a family where someone is struggling, it can affect the other members of the family, or in a circle of friends. Or certainly if you know that someone is struggling related to suicide, or if someone has attempted, it can affect the others who haven't attempted, but it can weigh upon people. So everyone needs support. All right, so a reminder on the next slide. One additional source of support, of course, calling 211 in Contra Costa, our 800 number, texting the word HOPE, and then there's also the national line. Now let's take a look at the next slide. There's a wonderful website, Seize the Awkward, and it's encouraging people to reach out to one another and ask about how things are going, especially if you think that maybe it's not going so well. And this is slightly, it's supposed to be funny. It's oddly, weirdly funny. So this video, I think, is about 1.5 minutes. So let's watch this.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me from here. Here. Or maybe even here. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
An awkward silence can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down. Starting the conversation now could stop something much worse from happening later on. Doesn't matter how you say it.
You all right?
Everything's okay?
Oh, G.
Yo, what up?
You all right, girl? You cool?
Bug and dog.
Just show you're there for them. Go on, Kelly. CZ awkward.
I'm always here for you. Okay? Okay.
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
So there it is. Seize those awkward moments to ask one another how they're doing. Ask your friend how he, she, they is doing. Here's a reminder. Well, I hope it's a reminder, or at least letting you all know that we have some suicide prevention trainings coming up. A 1-hour version of it coming up in English, another one in Spanish at the end of the month. Go to our website. Also, then 4-hour training, 6-hour trainings. That might be a bit much. They're on Fridays, but if you've got the time, come along. And I think that brings us to the end of my part here.
Drew?
We hope that you really enjoyed this presentation. We'd really like to get your feedback on the session. Please, if you have the time, scan the QR code or use the link in the chat box to take this confidential survey. Next slide. We'd also like to share a few resources with you. If you need issues with some of these things listed, please call 211 or go to www.211cc.org. And with these resources, we have Contra Costa County Office of Education, Tobacco Use Prevention Education, and the Contra Costa Crisis Center. These will be dropped in the chat box as well.
Thank you all for attending this evening. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you enjoyed the presentation. We'll start with the Q&A session in just a minute, so stick around if you'd like to. Thank you again for attending the Contra Costa County Student Wellness Series. Next slide.
All right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down in the Q&A box.